Good afternoon. My name is Tim Markle. I'm director of the Southern Regional Center for Children and Youth with Special Health Care Needs. We're out of the Waisman Center in Madison, and we serve 14 counties in South and Southwest Wisconsin, providing parents and the professionals who serve them with information, referral, training, just trying to help get through the system of special needs. Hey, you get to find your way through the system is a lot simpler than actually navigating the system of care. We are with Conversations for Showing Up for Kids, where we talk with people about stuff that we think parents and families would be interested in. I'd like to remind people that I in no way am serving as an expert in any area of education, law, or medical. We are just having a conversation. I am not a doctor, I am not a lawyer. We do refer you to information and referral specialists and other people that may be able to help you out. What we want to do is just have conversations around things that are going to help. So today I'm very excited because it's I get to talk with an old friend. Caroline and I don't know how long we have been doing this work together, but it has been a while. And so what makes us sound really old. Sorry about that, Caroline. I know there's days I feel really old, but I don't want to put you into that category. So Caroline, can you tell us a little bit about this organization we're going to talk about today, WSPEI, WSPEI. What does that stand for, and what are they about?
Okay, absolutely, Tim. So WSPEI, WSPEI is the acronym, stands for the Wisconsin Statewide Parent Educator Initiative. This is a discretionary grant funded through the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, It's been in existence since the year 2000. And we work closely with Department of Public Instruction. Obviously, they give us our direction for this grant work, but we also work within all the regional CYSHCNs in the state of Wisconsin. So if you're not familiar with the CYSHCNs, they're cooperative educational service agencies. And there are 12 different regions, like I said, broken out 12 CYSHCNs, and they support all the local school districts that are in that specific region. So our coordinators on the grant, which we have 14 of them, each work out of a CYSHCN. So the mission and vision for WSPEI, for the Wisconsin Statewide Parent Educator Initiative, the vision is that all families and school communities have the beliefs, knowledge, and skills to meaningfully engage in effective decision-making to improve outcomes for students of all abilities. And our mission is to develop strong relationships and build effective partnerships.
Which you know me well enough, Caroline, that you're speaking my language, is that this whole idea that the effectiveness of schools, the effectiveness of education can sometimes come down to the quality of the relationship between the family and the schools. And that it's part of each side's responsibility to help build that relationship, as schools can't do family engagement without families, and families are not going to successfully engage with schools without school personnel. So I really like this idea of education as a partner. I love that as a sort of foundational, building effective partnerships.
Yes, and I think that the Department of Public Instruction saw that need back in the year 2000 when they started this grant. And I think the grant has been very successful in building up. And now we talk about building capacity, right? So we're building capacity of educators and families to build that partnership and build those relationships.
So did you go to school to be a WSPEI director? Was this your goal as you were growing up and all the other kids wanted to be teachers and astronauts and lawyers and doctors? Did you say, I want to work at WSPEI?
No, it wasn't.
So how did you manage to get involved with WSPEI?
So I have a business background. I attended college in La Crosse with a business administration degree. I went back to my hometown of Argyle, a village of 800, and I eventually owned our family's grocery business. So I did that for about 30 years. During the same time, being in a small community especially, you really do get involved in a lot of different things in the community. And one of those things was the school board. So I was on the local school board. The bigger piece of this is I have 4 daughters. My third daughter has had and still does have autism. So that really brought me into this special education world. And like I said, I was on the school board, and I really had a lot of relationships with the teachers at school already, but the special education piece was really unique. I mean, this was different. How are you going to support my daughter? How are we going to work together to support her through her education? So that's what brought me into this work, is that interest. And I talked to you earlier, I mentioned the local CYSHCNs, right? And so our local CYSHCN had an advertisement for a family engagement coordinator. It was part-time, and it worked really well because the grocery business, because of the recession and the small town, wasn't the same as it used to be. Not as many the profit margin was shrinking and that kind of thing. And I wanted to do something different anyway. So it worked out really well because it was part-time. And that was 8 years ago. I started with CYSHCN 3 and really enjoyed the collaboration with others at CYSHCN 3, meeting other educators, beginning to build those relationships, right, with the districts, and then supporting them with these family engagement efforts, and sharing my story of how we work together at my school district to really try to provide the best education for my daughter. And that was back, she's 25 now, and that was like, I think maybe the first student that was like, had the autism label. And I remember teachers being like scared, like, oh my gosh, this is going to be really hard. How am I going to support her in the classroom? But I think with that collaboration, right? And that we built that relationship of trust, we really moved forward, I feel, in a real positive way.
And so it sounds like you were working on doing what WSPEI should do even when you were a parent, and then found an organization that had the same beliefs as you, and you're continuing to work for that parent-educator partnership.
Exactly.
That equal partnership.
Yep. I see.
So what does WSPEI do for families? How can they help support families in school?
Well, one way we support families is we can support them one-on-one. And we have like 2 different levels of this support. So we started, this is fairly new, this statewide phone support piece. We have an 800 number and an email address that if anyone has any questions about, especially special education, but if it's an education question too, we take those from anybody. They can call us. We have 4 coordinators that share different times on this phone line, right? I monitor the email that comes in, and we reach out to these families and we help them talk through the situation and the concerns, and we provide resources and or referrals like to other organizations that could possibly help them. But even before that, we talk to them a lot about communication and building that partnership. And we try to provide some type of like a bit of coaching, right? Along with information about, how you can go in and really communicate your concerns and ask your questions and move towards being that equal partner, right? And developing your child's IEP. So that's our statewide level. And then beyond that, we have, like I mentioned before, in all the CYSHCNs, we have coordinators. So from that statewide phone piece, we will also give those, many times give those callers the contact information for our regional coordinators. And they're the ones that can really go much more in depth with that family and really provide much more one-on-one and more regional resources and information, as well as just really talking through the problems with them. And those callers and families and parents can call them back if they still have issues. So we're always there for them to help to build their confidence to become, move towards those equal partnerships. So that's one aspect of how we help families. I mentioned
that's pretty big. I'll let you continue in a moment, but that's a pretty big role. to be able to have somewhere that families can call because when we enter the system, is we're going to find stuff that we just don't understand because we haven't come across it before. And so to be able to have someone who understands the system to talk to and say, this is what happened, and I just want to make sure it's okay. Can parents call with like questions like I just had an IEP meeting and I think this is all right. This is what happened. Can you like help talk them through about what their options may be?
Exactly. You know, with information they may not have had before, so they can, you know, gain that knowledge. Really talking to them about, you know, effective communication and, you know, building that partnership with the educator. And I do want to mention too, we're also working with districts at the same time. We're working with educators in the same way to build those partnerships and build their capacity to engage families. So yes, I mean, I would say that is along with, that's probably, you know, a big piece of our work, right? With families. We also have things like we have like short presentations that we can give if there's a family group that would come into a district. So we have a number of short presentations of different topics, as well as like serving on groups. If there's families that are family members that want to maybe endeavor this into getting into a decision-making group at school, we can provide the serving on groups training, which really helps them to learn how to really successfully be a participant on a group. So we have the kind of the technical assistance information side, plus the more support that we can continue to work with the family to work through their concerns and their questions.
So have you been able to help? I don't know I forgot to do my homework. And so I forgot to ask you what kind of calls you have been getting. So we're gonna do what I should never do, which is ask a question that I don't know the answer to. So have you gotten calls or worked with parents about how to implement an IEP when you're no longer in the school building with the specialists right there, with all of at-home learning? Have you been able to talk or present about how to continue to make sure that an IEP is implemented, how to continue that partnership that is the IEP between the teacher, the student, and the parents?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we feel this, you know, with this COVID-19, we feel this is an opportunity, right, for educators and families to build that partnership because it's become a greater need at this time. And yes, we are getting calls about that. Many of those calls, we're sending them back to their special ed team or their special ed director or their caseworker, asking them to request an IEP, because in this time of COVID-19, the need is to really go back and look at that individual student's needs and how to then be able to provide FAPE, right? Provide FAPE within their IEP. So it really gets back again to that discussion and that conversation and that partnership, being able to talk through how they can best support that specific student. And of course, we also have a connection with DPI, because we're all trying to stay on the same page as far as their development of guidance and recommendations and things like that. So we do connect with DPI regarding how to support families on a biweekly basis, share our thoughts and concerns, how we can best support families through this, as well as within WSPEI, especially with our statewide phone support team, we have discussions and kind of brainstorming about how to do this and what questions, and kind of try to anticipate questions that might come up and concerns that might come up, so we can more proactively think about these things.
So basically if a family is listening to this recorded on the YouTube and they're just like going, I don't think this at-home education thing is really working as well for my child with special needs as it should. I'm wondering how we might be able to change the IEP to be able to really help them learn during this time. So they could call you and you could talk them through how to ask for another IEP.
Exactly. And provide them information they may need that would help them to prepare, right, for that discussion.
Right. Right. So do you help, do you talk through, okay, this is sort of what an IEP meeting is about. These are the things you can talk to beforehand. Like, can parents ask for like a draft copy of the IEP before should they be getting a copy of the IEP plan before they go into the meeting? Because I know the meeting's about making that plan.
Yeah.
But yet, should they get some information beforehand?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And a draft IEP may be good, but if it's not explained to the parent or the family, it might not be as beneficial. I mean, we really like to see educators reach out to families before that IEP meeting happens to see what questions or concerns are out there, maybe talk about a draft IEP, what the meeting might look like. So they feel better prepared when they come into an IEP meeting and don't feel as intimidated or maybe feeling like they just have a lack of knowledge and can't participate very well in it.
Yeah, it's hard to feel like a partner if you feel outnumbered and overwhelmed and like you don't have the same information that everybody else at the meeting has. And so being able to come in with that level of confidence is really helpful for families. We've talked with other organizations that, years ago, they maybe used to be able to help provide advocates or supports for parents going into IEP meetings, but now everything, especially with COVID, is pretty much virtually. So do you provide any sort of, or suggest anybody that could go along with the parent to provide a second set of eyes or ears?
Certainly, yes. We always suggest someone that knows that child or knows something about that child and how to best support that child. That would be one person, right? Or just someone that family member or parent really feels that could provide support to them during the meeting. It could even be like emotional support and just having somebody else there, right? And as you mentioned, there are other statewide organizations that can attend IEP meetings, although, like you mentioned, it seems as though their funding isn't allowing them to do that as often as they had in the past.
Correct.
So that comes back to what we try to do then. We try to, I guess you could say, empower them. We try to build the efficacy within those family members so they can go in and they can feel confident and strong to be able to work through that IEP meeting and know that they are really an equal partner, they can contribute, and that end product of that IEP is really something that they can agree to. There are obviously times when that just doesn't work and communication and that breaks down within those IEP meetings and between the educator and the family. And we then do provide to them the Wisconsin Special Education Mediation System contact information. They're also a discretionary grant to the Department of Public Instruction, and families can reach out to them for either IEP facilitation. And if you connect with that website and you look and you can call them or you can get information off their website, they can explain these things differently to you, but they offer IEP facilitation, mediation, and then they can explain to you what due process is all about if it would absolutely get to that point. But that's another grant that can be very helpful to families to have that conversation at the IEP meeting and come to some agreement on what that IEP would look like.
And in the interest of self-promoting, I will let you know, and everybody who's listening, that we do have a recorded conversation with, Gia from Wisconsin Special Education Mediation System about what they're about, along with Matthew from Wisconsin Facets. A little bit more about what those options are. So we do have that recording as part of this playlist. So if what Caroline just said says, I might be interested in that, go back and listen to the one with WSEMS. They were very interesting. Tell me a little bit more. I'm kind of interested because of the fact that we hear about so many differences between districts and regions.
Mhm.
How do your district liaisons or your district coordinators, how do they help support families in like the more local school districts or the, you know what I mean? I mean, we have education, we have Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, and then we have our districts who have a lot of local control. And
Yep.
sometimes we can have misunderstanding between what we think is happening and what is actually happening on the ground at the district for a variety of reasons. So how does having district coordinators help you out? How can they help sort of get more granular, down more basic with the family?
Sure. And I think what you're talking about, Tim, is we do have a program called the District Family Engagement Liaison Program. And I'll take a step back to one other thing that WSPEI does is when we can, we provide leadership opportunities, whether we provide it from WSPEI or we give them referrals to different leadership opportunities, right? As a
Mm-hmm.
parent may want to take on a role of like a voluntary district family engagement liaison. So we do have this program, and we do have district family engagement liaisons statewide that we work with. We do provide training around special education topics, communication, technology, media, and like another one is navigating resources. So these nominated district family engagement liaisons, and I'll step back again, they're nominated by that district special education director. So, WSPEI talks and we build relationships with special education directors, and we talk to them about, is there a parent in your district that you could work with collaboratively to help support families of students with IEPs? Whether it's helping maybe plan some events for them or support them again with local information or information from the Department of Public Instruction, talk through questions and current concerns with them, and whatever the district special education director would assign as their role, but those are the types of things that they would do. And you are correct, or I shouldn't say correct, but I like the fact that you mentioned, that local control piece. So that really helps, because we can look at things from the statewide view or regional view and help parents from those perspectives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or that distance. I don't know if I want to say like 30,000 foot. Maybe,
Right.
Right. But if there's a trusted parent in the district, and that the district family engagement liaison could be referred to as a parent mentor, that kind of thing too.
Mm-hmm.
And they have that collaborative relationship with an educator, being the special education director. That can really help families a lot, just knowing there's someone in their district, right, or in their school,
Yes,
that they can reach out to with questions, and they can get some help. And we connect with those district family engagement liaisons that we train and mentor. We connect with them on a regular basis also. So they get, they can get information from us, which they can pass down then to the local parents in that local district. But they can, more importantly, they can provide that more local support.
so someone who decides, that they have some questions about the special education that their child is receiving, they call the 800 or the 833-879-7734. They are going to get connected with somebody who can answer information referral, special education questions. And then when appropriate, maybe they'll also be able to get in touch with the district coordinator, and maybe there's a district family engagement liaison that actually knows their school district that they may also then get connected.
Yes.
That's a lot of really cool connections for families.
It is. And I think it's been helpful to those that have utilized, whether it be the district family engagement liaison, the regional CYSHCN coordinator, or our statewide phone. Our hope is that we are always able to support families with their needs so that they're able to really participate and feel that they're an equal partner with the school in their child's education.
So we have a question from a parent. which is a good question because I sometimes will forget the differences between the system and who can help. So the question is, does WSPEI only work with IEPs? Do they work with 504 plans, Title II, which I believe has to do with speech and communication with the ADA. So I know that 504s and the people who oversee 504s are in the disability, civil rights disability world, not the education world.
Right.
But there's a lot of crossover between the supports that are being given through an IEP or a 504. I mean, extended time to take a test, extended time to take a test, whether it's provided through an IEP or provided through a 504. And so a lot of times the resources, the accommodations look the same, but it's how it's being provided is different. Will WSPEI help out parents who have 504s?
We certainly can give them information about 504s. We can always support them with that communication and relationship building piece. But if they have specific questions or really want someone to help them specifically with the 504s or ADA type requirements, we would then refer them to another statewide agency. Disability Rights Wisconsin is typically the agency that we would refer them to on topics such as that.
Okay, good to know. And it's good to know that there is an organization in Wisconsin that can help out on those things. So thank you for mentioning our partners at Disability Rights Wisconsin. I could continue to talk and ask questions, but I know we do have a few people on the line, so I do want to give them time and space. So think of your questions. If you're going to ask a question, please feel free to either chat it or unmute and ask it. If not, I'd really like to spend just a little bit more time talking a little bit about how you can help parents communicate. Communication seems to be one of those things that we learn, that we think we do naturally, and that can be really problematic when it's not done well. And
Right.
so as we wait for questions, I'm curious as to how WSPEI can help families and the school to improve that communication so they're hearing instead of talking. So just a quick pause here. Any questions from the people that are listening in today? All right, it looks like so far we have asked the questions that they wanted to ask, which is always encouraging. At least that's the way that I take it. So thank you very much for responding and letting me know. Wonderful group that is out there. So Caroline, so two things, because I know there is so much, I know there's this whole thing of WSPEI that we haven't even got to about how you work with districts to improve family engagement. So I really want to talk about that, but what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to invite you to come back on later in October and talk about working with districts and what you are doing to work with districts to improve family engagement. Okay, so I really want to come back to that because I was really was out of the know on FEAP, and I really want to be able to talk what you're doing with the family engagement assessment and planning and helping districts. That just seems really, really interesting to me, and an option that parents, I don't know, could sit there in district about and say, hey, have you ever thought about this? Well, we can cover that later in October, but let's talk communication. It sounds like a simple thing, right? I mean, it's one of the first things we do as babies is we learn how to communicate, but yet it can be a struggle. So how do you help families and districts overcome that struggle of communication?
I'd also invite, I know I have a couple colleagues on the Zoom here also, and if they want to chime in at any time, especially now with this communication question, because communication, many times that's what we find is really the root cause, right, of other issues that are brought up, is that, is there effective communication? So some things, I think, with communication, there's got to be some beliefs and values in place, about families, and vice versa about educators, being mindful of specific circumstances that might affect their ability to participate or communicate, and always thinking about, what's going on in their shoes, what's happening in their life, what certain situational things might be happening that might cause something that I might think, oh, they aren't really participating or not interested, but it could be totally something different that they really are, but something's prohibiting that. So I think being mindful of others.
And like you said, that goes both ways.
Yes.
Is that the educator's mindful of the parents' unique circumstance and context, as well as the parents being aware of the school, of the educator's context and the educators, what's going on there too. Yep. Because we're whole people. We carry ourselves everywhere we go. And so we need to understand that about each other. And I do think Tiffany was coming in to say something as well, just to give you a little bit of a break, Caroline. Sure. Tiffany, what would you like to add?
I think with the communication piece, a couple things. For families, it can be really, I know as a parent of a child with a disability, sometimes it can be really hard for us to keep our emotions in check when we're communicating, when we're talking about these things that are close and dear to our heart. So when it comes to communication, one of the key things I think is really trying to keep our emotions in check while we're communicating, because if we're being over emotional, we're not going to be able to communicate as effectively. And along with that, I think it's really important to take time to truly listen to the other person's perspective. When we listen to the other person's perspective, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're agreeing with what they're saying, but we're showing them the courtesy and respect that we would want someone to use when they're communicating and listening to us. So just really taking time to listen with, empathy, non-judgment, and working with the family in that sense, or the school in that sense, I think can be really helpful in communication.
Thanks, Tiffany, which just brings up a quick question. Are there many, what I would call parent professionals, family members who have children who have special health care needs, also working on WSPEI? Is there a few of you guys that are working with WSPEI, but also are parents of children with special health care needs?
There are a few. So all WSPEI coordinators have a child with special needs of some type, right? Tiffany especially has the healthcare piece, but Tiffany also has a healthcare background. She was a nurse previous to coming to WSPEI. So we have a lot of backgrounds, before they came to WSPEI and started working, they had a life before that. They had a life, a different career, a different job. And it's great because they can contribute from those perspectives to our work that we do. So yes.
Sorry, I took myself off on a rabbit trail. Horrible interviewing skills. So back to communication. What else did you want to say about communication? I loved what Tiffany said. I loved where you were going. I mean, you guys are you're speaking my language.
Yep, that's exactly where I was going to go next, was that, using active listening, learning to understand. And by doing that, you're showing the other person, whoever it is, that you really truly care. You're showing that empathy, right? And I think that's a basis for being able to build that relationship, build that trust, is to open yourself up to really listen, maybe be vulnerable, and then allow that relationship to grow, which can then grow into a partnership and supporting your child.
I like that sense. I like that sense of growth as well. Is I don't, the people that I know the best, I didn't know the best within 5 minutes of meeting them. It's through time and through respect and through listening to them that I've learned who they are, and that's helped me communicate with them. Tiffany?
I was to say, and for parents too, it's okay to, if you don't understand something, to ask questions and to clarify. I know I, as a parent, in the first IEP meetings I went to, there were many times I had questions and I was embarrassed to ask the question because I didn't want them to think, oh, this parent doesn't know anything, right? And so I was really hesitant to ask those questions at first. So I think having the confidence that it's okay to ask questions, to clarify it if you don't understand something, maybe asking them to explain it a different way. And that's how we all learn and that's how we grow. So just encouraging families to do that.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Anything else?
I'll
Yeah, go
echo
ahead, Caroline.
that if, a family may feel like, oh, maybe I shouldn't bring this up, but it really does then allow for learning on all parties, that might be at that IEP team meeting or within that conversation.
Excellent. Well, I want to sort of close out this portion. And then, like I said, I really want to come back. So I'll work with you on scheduling near the end of October to talk more about the family engagement assessment and planning process, because it's really exciting to me. But I just want to reiterate that you have statewide phone support 7 days a week. People can call with their special education questions. I will get that number into the description of this recording up on YouTube. So what I'm planning to link from that description are the WSPEI website, your email address and your phone number, along with, I know we mentioned CYSHCN, so I'll put a link if you want to find out a little bit more about CYSHCN, family engagement through DPI, as well as the special education system. So that they, if anything, sparked an interest, I'll have those descriptions. And anything else that you want to give to me to post there for families. I have no idea whether anybody ever reads the descriptions or whether it's just me trying to pretend to be professional, but I put these things out there anyway.
That's great. Yep.
So let me know what else you may want me to post there.
Yeah, let me think about it.
Okay.
Right now, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything. But we appreciate the time to be on with you, Tim, and talk about what WSPEI does and how we can support families.
You know that I respect and love the work that you guys do. I've yet to have a bad interaction with somebody from WSPEI. I just really enjoy the people I meet through WSPEI.
Yep, you probably won't have a bad reaction because we all have, our hearts are in the right place, right?
Yeah.
We want to help. We want to support others. We have maybe been in those shoes before, and we can come in with that background knowledge and help others to work through questions, concerns, and issues.
Sounds great. Well, last moment for any burning questions people might have. Any closing comments from Caroline or anybody else? If anybody else would like to make a closing comment, I mean, that'd be fine. I don't need closing comments all the time. Somebody else could. But anybody want to make a closing comment or any final questions? All right. If not, I'll say thank you. And Caroline, if you'd like to just hold on to the line, I'm going to disconnect the recording and then we can just do a short debrief and make plans for the next time. So until next time, thank you so much for listening. I hope you find this helpful. There is an evaluation that is attached again in the description field. Part of that evaluation is let me know what sort of topics you think families would like to hear about, families like to talk about and have a conversation around. We're always looking for ideas. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you, Tim.